Hi guys, welcome to the Wrestling Retrospective, and in this video I'll be doing my review of AEW All Out 2023. So first up on the 0 hour, we had Hangman Adam Page win the Charity Battle Royal. This was good. I mean, like I said on the weekly retrospective videos for Rampage, all Battle Royals are really fun to watch in my opinion. I do like a good Battle Royal. For me, as soon as all the participants came out, the favourites for me were Hangman, Scorpio Sky and Brian Cage. And obviously Hangman got the win here and he donated it to a charity in Chicago, which is really good. But yes, there's not much to say on this one, just pretty bog standard, good Battle Royal really. Following that on the 0 hour, we had Hikaru Shida, Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale defeat Mercedes Martinez, Athena and Diamante. This was a decent 6-woman tag. It wasn't as one-sided as the match on Rampage between Sky Blue, Willow Nightingale, Anna Jay and Ty Valkyrie. That's the one. Sorry, I'm completely blank. I did like the dynamic the unusual dynamic that the heels were the two that weren't getting on. There was an ego trip between Athena and Martinez and Diamante, as Diamante and Martinez have been teaming up recently, and Athena's kind of going through like this really, not weird, but like unique storyline where she's acting like she's good, but I feel like her turn on Billy Starks is coming at any point. Or that's the idea I get. I don't watch Ring of Honor, so that's what it seems like from the outside, I guess. But it said it was a really good match, and yet it said it was way more evenly contested than the tag match. Obviously, when you see Sky Blue and she's wearing Chicago colours, you think it's going to be in her favour, and yeah, she got the win, which was good, and there was a bigger reaction on the pay-per-view than there was on Rampage, which was, I suppose, good for her. And yeah, it was just a decent match to have on the pre-show. It was the only real thing I thought was it was a shame that Hikaru Shida went from being champion All In to being on the pre-show of All Out, and hopefully she can kind of get higher up the card again, maybe go towards the TBS championship or something like that. But yeah, it was a shame to see Hikaru Shida kind of fall quite far down the card after All In. In the final match of the 0 hour, we saw the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass defeat Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh to retain the World Trios Championships. I always get that wrong. This was an alright match, a lot of shenanigans. I know that the Dennis Rodman guy, I really don't know much about him. I think he was in the NWO, but I'm more of a WWF guy than a WCW guy, so I don't know that much about the NWO. But yeah, I said a lot of shenanigans throughout this one, which it didn't take away from the match. It was kind of to be expected, especially with Jarrett's team. But yeah, it was just kind of a bit of a mess in my opinion. It was an alright match for when they were just having the match. But yeah, I said it was alright overall. Another decent defense of the Trios Championships by the Acclaimed. Hopefully they'll start probably a proper feud towards Wrestle Dream this week on Dynamite or Collision. The first match on the main show was MJF and Adam Cole successfully defending the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships against the Dark Order, John Silver and Alex Reynolds. This was a decent tag match. Dark Order took clear advantage of MJF's bum neck, and yeah, they left Adam Cole completely to himself, and even then it was a decent 2-on-1 handicap match, to be fair. Adam Cole hung in there really well, and yeah, the match was still quite good, even though obviously it was down to a handicap. And when MJF came out, he had a huge pop, which was really nice and still really unusual when you're watching MJF and him getting popped so much, even though like it's been going on for a while now. But yeah, insane. It was a great finish to the match, having MJF kind of go crazy on Dark Order. John Silver for me is very underrated in the Dark Order, and though he fits the Dark Order quite well, like I can't see him doing like a singles run, but not like leaving the Dark Order and doing. But like he just shows how good he is. The transitions that him and Reynolds do into a schoolboy pin is really, really nice to see. And I do forget how good the Dark Order are because they're not on AEW so much, they're more Ring of Honor now. But yeah, I said it was really nice to see them on pay-per-view. As for Cole and MJF, I'm not sure who takes away the titles. I'm not that clear on who is on Ring of Honor. But I'm sure they'll get some good matches out of this. Maybe, I want to say till Full Gear, but I think they're going to carry this on maybe till Revolution, and then we'll have the final MJF versus Adam Cole feud breaker where one turns probably into the new year. MJF for me is an absolute idiot. Like, you have a really badly injured neck. So attacking Samoa Joe, like, I wouldn't attack Samoa Joe if I had superpowers, let alone like not having superpowers and having a hurt neck. Like, what a stupid thing for MJF to do. And yeah, he got what he kind of deserved. Joe almost immediately put him in a guillotine, which would have affected his neck even more. But if we're going to get a feud between Samoa Joe and MJF, that's something I'm looking forward to. And maybe they'll have a match at Grand Slam. Again, I think it'd be a really cool match. And so yeah, overall, all happy with this one, even though it went to a handicap. Oh, and now we had Samoa Joe successfully defend the Ring of Honor Television Championship against Shane Taylor. This was a really hard-hitting affair, but a great match overall. And this is kind of my introduction to Shane Taylor, and he's actually really good. He, like, to be fair, he kind of reminds me of Samoa Joe actually. And he's a big guy who can hit hard, but he's also really agile. And yeah, he just really impressed me for like a first-time watcher of him. And yeah, I said, really, I haven't got really much else to say this one, other than like hard hitting and really good match. But yeah, I said I look forward to seeing Joe versus MJF. I assume we're going down that route, and I think it's cool that the mid-card Ring of Honor champion is going for the World Championship in AEW, because it shows that like booking in AEW doesn't always have to stay within like, you know, the main event, the higher mid-card, lower, and then the lower. People come from any juncture can just go for the world title and it be believable and a good match. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, Shane Taylor's someone definitely for me to look out for if I ever do start watching Ring of Honor. But honestly, there's enough wrestling to watch during the week without Ring of Honor, so I'm not sure if I'll start watching it anytime soon. But you know, it's definitely worth looking into, I think, my opinion. And yeah, I think it's, I said I ain't got much else to say on that one. I do apologise, but it's a really hard hitting affair. Great match. Samoa Joe still the television champion. That we had Luchasaurus accompanied by Christian Cage defeat Darby Allin to retain the TNT Championship. This was very one-sided, but it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Naturally, it would be that way, that someone so big like Luchasaurus would dominate for the most part someone the size of Darby Allin. But when Darby Allin got the upper hand, the crowd came alive for it, and it was really cool. It, like, the dynamic of size of Luchasaurus and size of Darby Allin worked perfectly in this match, in my opinion. The horrendous finish of two tombstones, like, the tombstones weren't that bad. Like, no, they weren't. No, the tombstones were bad. Like, you could tell that he was being kind of soft with it. He wasn't putting the full impact into it, even though Darby's head was quite far off the floor. But it was the throw into the top rope where Darby went face first into the top rope, which looked really bad, and then he lariat into the back of his head, finished him off. And yeah, you could tell that Darby Allin, like, I don't think Darby Allin moved for ages afterwards. And yeah, I said Darby was in a really rough state, but I'm glad that Christian Cage is still the TNT champion. And yeah, I've got a feeling this might be a write-off TV for Darby Allin, maybe because he's going to climb Everest and go do the training for that, which I know takes a while. So maybe it'll be a while before we see Darby Allin again. But I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I feel like that was kind of what was shown, because all the doctors came out, all the faces that were in the back came out to show as if like Darby is really, really hurt and would need time to recover. But yeah, said really cool match. The dynamic of the match worked absolutely spot on, and yeah, it was really enjoyable. So for me, one of the better matches of the card, and Christian Cage is still a TNT champion. And that we had Miro defeat Powerhouse Hobbs. I've not got much to say about this one. It was a really good match. The crowd were great during this one. Everything was about big men slapping meat, and yeah, it just worked both. It was a really good showcase for both. It was good to see both guys on pay-per-view again, and yeah, I think it benefited both men just having this match in general. I don't feel like this is over between the two of them. I feel like they're gonna have some more matches, maybe on Collision. But yes, Ed, big win for Miro on pay-per-view. Hopefully this puts him up the card a little bit more, maybe go towards the TNT Championship, as Miro I think is the face in this match, so I'd have him stay as face and go for Luchasaurus, because, you know, talk about big men slapping meat, that would be down exactly the same lines. And yeah, maybe even the International Championship, as Moxley is a heel as well. But As I said, not much to say about this one. It was just a really good match. The crowd made this even better. And yeah, just all positives all around from me. CJ Perry made her debut after the match. I don't know whether she should be called CJ Perry, but we know that her name isn't actually on her. But yeah, it was like this cool moment where I honestly thought she was going to try and fight Hobbs, and I was like fully up for it. I also was worried that she was going to kiss Hobbs because of her storyline with Bobby Lashley. So, but yeah, it was just really cool. And then, yeah, it was an interesting story having Miro leave her in the ring and say that I don't know if it was he doesn't believe in her. I think it might be that, or something. But, you know, he renounced her a long time ago. And as she said on Twitter, she doesn't be renounced. You know, it's not as easy as that. But yeah, it's an interesting storyline. And I'm hoping this isn't a one-off for CJ Perry being around, and that she's almost like if they can get after every match, CJ Perry comes out and he has like the same reaction for a bit, and he starts to like it, like the idea a bit more, and then they have them as an actual partnership. That would be really cool. I am curious about the storyline between CJ Perry and Miro, and yeah, it was a really cool way to top off a really good match. Next up, we had Kris Statlander successfully retain the TBS Championship against Ruby Soho. This was a really good match. I genuinely very much enjoyed this one. I thought the wrestling was really good throughout. This was very evenly contested. You know, you could see both were desperate to get the win at one point. Saraya didn't get involved that much. She was shouting a lot on the outside, but there wasn't that much involvement compared to other matches involving the Outcasts, which was good to see. I'm glad that they just let them go out there and wrestle it out. I say, though, the interference was very minimal. Obviously, there was interference that played a big part in the finish, but as far as just the teams themselves, like the team of the Outcasts, they just stayed out of the match as much as, Saraya stayed out of the match as much as she could, which was really cool. I would like to see this one be run back though, and be done clean. I feel like Statlander and Ruby Soho have a really good chemistry, and have Soho go for the title again would be really cool. I did like the whole Saraya, the Women's World Champion, running away from Statlander, the TBS Champion. In a way, it would look or make it seem like Saraya is the weaker one, but then it did help Ruby get the advantage, so I understand why she did it. It was an interesting way to go about it. I don't see it as interference, as Statlander didn't need to chase Saraya, she chose to, but it helped Ruby get the advantage. Later on in the match, I genuinely thought Soho had the win after the avalanche No Future into the Destination Unknown, and the disappointment of Statlander kicking out at 2. It was an incredibly close call, and Toni Storm is a Judas. I am so angry with Toni Storm. I've started to talk about on the channel so much how I want Ruby Soho to start winning more. She did, then she got on the pay-per-views, and then she did, and then she gets title shot, and then she did, and then finally she was about to get the win, and Toni Storm cost her the match, and I am very unhappy. Toni ruined everything. I'm not happy. Well, I actually, to be fair, I'm a big fan of Statlander as well, so I'm happy that she retained. But I've been saying all this stuff about Ruby Soho getting the win, and then it was Toni Storm that ruined it all. And it was, I hope that Soho and Saraya kill Toni, because Soho didn't deserve that. And if anything, Toni Storm should be the one on the back heels of getting the shit kicked out of her, because she was going to try and break Saraya's neck again. I'm so angry I can't even talk. And then she cost Soho the title. Toni Storm's got a real beating coming in her future. But Statlander getting the win was really cool. I'm glad to see her carrying on her title reign, and hopefully she goes on to have some more brilliant matches as she's been having defending the TBS Championship. Next up, we had Bryan Danielson defeating Ricky Starks in a strap match. This was bloody brutal. I loved it. It almost got match of the night in my opinion. It was so good. The whips from the strap were awful in a good way, and I think it was just brilliant in every single way. Both had an even amount of offense in, and yet it was just I don't know. I wasn't expecting this at all. I'm glad that they didn't do the traditional hitting the 4 posts for the win in a strap match. They just went for pinfall and submission, which worked perfectly. You know, Danielson was a bloody mess from the beginning, and yeah, it was just everything I love about wrestling was in this match. There was good wrestling, there was violence, there was blood, and yeah, it was, as I said, it was absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I think like every hit from the strap was just brutal in my opinion. Like, I don't think there was a bad hit in that match. And yeah, I think, and then the finish with Starks getting choked out at the end, I think it made him look really strong because he didn't give up on us straight away. It was a bit uncomfortable the amount of time that Starks was in the submission, but it played out perfectly. A lot of people have been saying how it's similar to Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13, and I can see the resemblance of that. And yeah, it was just a really cool way to make Starks look strong in defeat. And yeah, I think just, as I said, match of the night almost, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, can't wait to see what both of them go on to do next. Hopefully Brian's back full time. Following that, we had Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta defeat Eddie Kingston and Shibata. This was a decent match. It was quite slow at times, but it was a good match nonetheless. I liked how Shibata and Kingston were both really gunning for Claudio rather than Wheeler. It did at times feel like Shibata and Wheeler were just there. They had no connection. Shibata was just thrown into this, and Wheeler's just another member of the Blackpool Combat Club. I think like what would have been better off here is if they just did Kingston versus Claudio, but I think they're going to save that for maybe the main event of a Ring of Honor show. But yeah, it didn't take away from the match. It just felt unnecessary having Shibata and Wheeler there. You know, there's kind of, I think Shibata beat Wheeler for the Pure Championship, but don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure, but that's really the only connection that those two have. And yeah, I think, I don't know, it made me less interested because I didn't understand why Shibata and Wheeler were there, as I've said multiple times, and I should stop. And yeah, I'd like to see Kingston and Yuta have like a proper good singles match and give it time. I know they had a singles match on Dynamite, but like they had better interactions during this pay-per-view match than they did during the match on Dynamite. I don't remember the Dynamite match being all that good, but I think it was decent, I can imagine, but not as good as the interactions they had here. The transitional wrestling they both did was really, really good, and Eddie Kingston's Oracle to Wheeler was brutal, and so was Shibata's, to be fair. And yeah, I think what would have been a lot better was having Claudio and Kingston go one-on-one, maybe in a no DQ match, something like that. But as I said, I think they're saving that for Ring of Honor. I think it was an interesting finish, the fact that they had him win with a European uppercut. Nigel McGuinness said on commentary it was the first time he's ever seen someone win a match with an uppercut, ever. Which I think is pretty cool, and I think you know that Eddie Kingston's going to be really pissed off about that, which adds to their story even more. And yeah, it was nice to see the Blackpool Combat Club get a win back on pay-per-view. I know it's been a while since they've had a win on pay-per-view as a team, like as the team of Blackpool Combat Club. And yeah, same. Very happy with the match. Was slow at times, but it was still a good match. Next up, we had Konosuke Takeshita defeat Kenny Omega. This was absolutely brilliant match. This was a close second for match of the night. I thought this was fantastic. Omega's head got absolutely battered in the first few minutes, and then the knee strikes near the end made that even worse. You know, the suplex that Omega took and his head broke his fall was absolutely awful to see, and man, it was a holy shit moment seeing that. And yeah, they're just both phenomenal athletes, both have really good chemistry. I know they've had matches before in DDT, as they referenced on commentary, but you know, it was absolutely brutal. Takeshita's, I find it really hard to do. Takeshita's strikes were absolutely grim. Omega's pretty much aren't far behind, to be fair. And yeah, I can't wait to see a rematch, which I assume they're going to do at some point because they'll want Kenny to get his win back, and maybe they'll do a third rubber match overall. But yeah, I said even when this match slowed down, it was good. And I always worry when matches do slow down that they'll become boring and kind of tedious. But this one wasn't. Like I said, the strikes were absolutely brutal, which kept the slow momentum kind of going really well. And yet for the finish, having the 3 relentless knee strikes, the last one being without a knee pad, was absolutely brutal. And yeah, it said that put Kenny down, and it was a huge win for Takeshita, probably the biggest win he's had in AEW, and hopefully he uses this momentum to maybe get a championship, though I'm not sure which one, as maybe he'll go for the world title and Kenny will cost him. Maybe that'll be quite nice to see. But yeah, I think under Don Callis, Takeshita's been really, really good, and I've been really enjoying Takeshita as a heel more than I was as a face. And yeah, it's nice to see Kenny Omega back in singles action on pay-per-view. I know he had his match with Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door, but that kind of felt more like AEW New Japan, whereas AEW only, I can't remember the last time Kenny Omega had a singles match, as he was in the Trios division, and then he was kind of away for a bit, stuff like that. So yeah, it said it was nice to see, probably one of the better matches on the card. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, it is brilliant. Following that, we had the Bullet Club Gold defeat FTR and the Young Bucks. I expected more from this match. This was actually quite disappointing overall. You know, both, like all the teams involved, Bullet Club Gold, FTR and the Young Bucks, are incredible at tag team wrestling, but for me, nothing really clicked here. It was a pretty average match for them, and I expected a lot more. I know that FTR and the Bucks and Bullet Club Gold both had really big matches at All In, but no, I don't know, I just expected more out of this one. I expected more fluid wrestling, more thing. The only thing that was good is that there was no miscommunications between FTR and the Bucks, and even to a point where Nick Jackson apologized for not getting to break up the pinning time at the end of the match, which I was surprised about, to be fair. But as I said, it was just, I was expecting more out of this one, especially with it going on second to last, and yeah, it just didn't deliver in my opinion, and that was a shame. And hopefully, you know, things do improve as far as these two teams go. You know, I think this is a really good win for Bullet Club Gold, and it could see them go for the tag team titles again, which I very much enjoy, especially after the first match they had, which was an absolute classic. And as for the Bucks, I'm not sure what they do next, to be fair, because they lost the tag match All In, they've lost this match at All Out, so I'm not sure where they go from here. Maybe they take some time away for a bit, or probably they've just come from having time away, so I don't know. It's a weird one, because again, it's very unusual to see the Elite lose 2 pay-per-views in a row within the same week. So I don't know, maybe it's a turning of a new leaf for the Elite and they need to reconsider stuff. As the only member of the Elite that got the win was Hangman, but that was on the pre-show of the pay-per-view. So I don't, it's a weird situation with the Elite, and I'm hoping the Bullet Club Gold maybe are the ones to take the tag team titles from FTR. And finally, in the main event, Jon Moxley defeated Orange Cassidy to become the new international champion. This was an incredible match. Like, what a way to finish a historic title reign for Orange Cassidy, and it made Cassidy look like a badass and strong as and yet it also made Moxley look unbeatable. It was just brilliant. The match itself was fantastic. I enjoyed just some highlights for me, where when the soft kicks from Cassidy then became fucking real hard kicks. That was a cool moment. The beach break to the outside on the concrete was brutal. And yeah, the grueling lariats from Mox, and then finally the almost diagonal Death Rider to finish off Orange Cassidy. It was just wrestling as a story. It was wrestling at the highest order, and I don't think I would argue this could be match of the year, just because, you know, you had the unbeatable Jon Moxley, and then you had the chilled out Orange Cassidy, and it was just really cool way to finish a pay-per-view, like a pay-per-view that like a lot of people were very skeptical about, just because it was a week after All In, and what a way to finish it off. Like, I think this was, I know a lot of people would have preferred this match on All In. I think they did it perfectly. I think having Stadium Stampede was a really good way to intrigue people for Wembley, and then having this match to finish out a pretty decent card in All Out. Well, pretty decent is probably doing it an injustice, but yeah, I think having both, probably the two most consistent wrestlers in big matches and just matches overall in Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley, fight it out in such a brutal manner for a mid-card championship is huge. You know, it's just great quality booking from Tony Khan, because it makes the international championship look incredibly important, and it's a great way to make a title. And for me, it shows it's like the international title is now the working man's championship, similar to the Intercontinental Championship in WWE. And yeah, it just like I can see this championship making careers in the future, like similar again to how the Intercontinental Championship has in WWE, and like whoever has it, I know that in a minute Moxley is already accomplished, but like a way for now is to have a younger guy defeat Moxley for the championship, making it feel like an even bigger deal. And yeah, I don't know, it's just really good to see AEW kind of hit its stride again and be back at the level it was kind of before all the Brawl Out from All Out stuff happened, where it kind of hit a lull. And now it's back at its top again. I'm excited to watch Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision every week. It's why I've started doing the weekly reviews. And yeah, this match was essentially absolutely fantastic. And yeah, for me, it was 100% match of the night. And honestly, for me, if you haven't seen this one, I cannot stress enough. Go and watch it. It is fantastic. The story is quality, and everything about it is fantastic. Absolutely no complaints to me, and what a way to finish off a pay-per-view. So those are my thoughts and opinions on All Out for AEW 2023. This was a really good show. To say they only had like a week's build, this impressed me a lot. There was some great quality wrestling on the show. The main event was absolutely fantastic and should stand up against any main event of an AEW pay-per-view. And yeah, it was just very much enjoyable, and I loved it way more than I thought I was going to. Predictions wise, I did okay. I got 8 out of 12, which down in the corner puts my predictions for this year at 38 out of 49, which is pretty good. I did some of my predictions on the predictions video, and then at the end of the weekly review, the matches that got added to the pay-per-view, I did the end of that, which I thought was a way to get more predictions correct, which it did for the most part, which is good. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the really decent views I've been getting in a minute. Like, people seem to be really seem to be watching the content more, which is really good. And if there is any feedback at all on how to make it better, please put it down below in the comments. And also put what your match of the night was, what your favourite part of All Out was, and just how much you've enjoyed AEW this past week, or week and a half now when this is going out, with All In, All Out, and all the fun stuff between. It's been like a huge week for AEW, and I feel like it's putting way more on the map as far as not competing with WWE, but just becoming as big as WWE in the future. And yeah, it's just really positive for AEW all around. I said thank you for all the views on the channel as well, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.